The other thing that goes underlooked with that bullpen is the catcher. Now, Roberto Perez is going to spend some time on the shelf, but Chris Antonetti addressed the catching situation, said the Indians are real happy with where they're at.
It was one of the reasons I know in the offseason there was some question as to why we would want to maintain both Roberto and Austin, but it's for reasons exactly like this, that if we did have an injury, we would still feel good about our catching tandem. And Austin has stepped in and done a very good job of leading our pitching staff, and Rene Rivera made a very good first impression, not only with his performance at the major league level, but even in his brief time with us in the minor leagues, and the way he prepared for the opportunity was also really impressive.
And John, the Indians value not only defense, calling a game, Terry Francona will call it running a game. They value that from the catching position.
They do, and I would venture to say that the Cleveland Indians have been as good as any organization in baseball when it comes to the catcher position defensively. Roberto Perez is a Gold Glove caliber catcher, and the Indians are going to miss him here over the coming weeks. But you know what it says also is they take as much value as they can in a trade, and Austin Hedges has had to come into this organization and play a big role. Maybe he hasn't always been there with his bat, but the Indians haven't had great offensive production from the catcher position in recent years. They will negate that, and people might not want to hear that, but they'll cancel that out and then some with just how good of a game caller Perez has been. And I think that feeds right down the lineup of your catchers, and I think that Hedges is a classic example of it. Think about that Mike Clevenger trade, Dave. They get back Austin Hedges, who now has to play a bigger role for this team. They get Josh Naylor in that deal as well, and they get Cal Quantrill, who I think the Indians still see a lot of potential in as a role that could adapt from the bullpen, starting rotation. He could kind of be a Swiss Army knife for them. So what you're seeing is the fruits of that trade that people were thinking, did they get enough? What did they get? What do we think of it? Well, they've tried to make the most of that trade. It's ended up playing a big role for this team. But I think it goes back to your point. Like, you cannot underestimate what great defensive catching means to a team. You're talking about eliminating wild pitches. You're talking about the little things in a game that people don't always talk about. But I think that the Cleveland Indians have mastered having really good defensive catching behind the plate.